Growing up, what was your dream job, and how did you picture it?
Oh my goodness, dream job. I wanted to be a medical doctor, and I pictured myself doing work with families and children that were in a medical crisis and helping them through that crisis. It's nowhere near what I ended up doing with my life. Yeah.
How do you think racism in Syracuse compares to other parts of the country?
Well, I was born and raised in Chicago, which was an extremely segregated community. There were lots and lots of different kinds of people in Chicago, but they did not live in similar neighborhoods. It was segregated very much by neighborhoods. So I think that's typical of northern industrial cities, and I think Syracuse has a similar model. We're a very neighborhood-wise segregated community. The city and the county are both demonstrate that. So in terms of the way racism plays out, what I hear often from people of color is that this is one of the most racist cities they've ever lived in terms of tolerance levels and people's understanding. There's an assumption that because we're in the North, because this was an abolitionist part of the country during the Civil War, because there were many movements in Syracuse, that of course we have a progressive thought around all of this. But the reality for people is that it's a very difficult town to break into. If you're a person of color, it's a difficult town to find and keep the right job. It's a town where it's not uncommon to be stopped in an all-white neighborhood if you're a person of color driving through that neighborhood and asked why you're there. We have board members who are African American who have told us that that's a fairly regular occurrence in their lives. So there, for a lot of reasons, we find that it's a difficult town in terms of racism, and there's a lot of subtle racism as well that goes on. So I think I think we don't measure up very well in that regard.
How do people of minority groups respond to your efforts to improve race relations as a white woman?
It varies. Some people don't trust it, that this as an organization that was founded as predominantly a white organization can take this kind of a stand effectively. Others over time have come to realize that we need to be in this boat together and working on these issues together, and I think that in large measure people see me as an ally and as somebody who is willing to admit that she doesn't know all the answers to these very complex issues, that I have, that people who are white enjoy a certain kind of a privilege that we don't really notice often. And so it's really incumbent on us as white people to be aware that that privilege affects both the way we look at the world, the way we swim in the waters of the world, as well as affects our relationships with people of color. So I think that there's, we've been in this for the long haul, and I think that that's one of the things that has definitely made us as an agency and myself as an individual be trusted by communities of color as somebody who's not here to just do a study or just try something out for a little while and then move on, but rather this is our 14th year of working on the Dialogue to End Racism. It's my 14th year of doing that work. I've been a strong advocate for it. But I also have to continue to do my own personal work around this, because as white people we got trained in a certain way to think about the world, and you have to really untrain yourself.
How do you feel about working towards a goal that many people say is unlikely to ever be completely successful?
Well, first of all, I think it can be successful, so I would refute that if people say that's a hopelessness that comes out, and often people do feel hopeless around these large, complex social issues. So that's one thing, but it's not going to happen quickly, and it's probably not going to happen in my lifetime. There's a great rabbi who said that we are not responsible for all of the work, we are only responsible for the work that is in front of us. So right now, this is a very critical time in human evolution and in human relations around civil rights and around equity and equality. And so we have to do what we do right now. We have to engage people in dialogue. We have to look at the systems and structures that perpetuate racism. We have to look at how our children are being educated, the kinds of opportunities that are and are not provided to people, and do the best we can in this time. What I do around that is I make quilts at home at night for people, because I will be able to finish a quilt. I won't be able to end racism in my lifetime, but I have that balance in my life where I can do some things that bring a little bit of beauty and joy while we do this hard work.
Tell us a story of something that has happened here that gives you hope.
Well, historically, it's very hopeful to me that this is an abolitionist city. That there were many people in Syracuse back during the Civil War who said no to racism, that stood up against racism, and that rescued people and helped people get to freedom, which they deserved, and stood up against the laws. There were new laws put in place once, the fugitive slave laws, and we had people here who said, nope, we're not going to abide by those. Those are unjust, unfair laws that don't acknowledge people as humans. So we have a long history of that in Syracuse. Things that have given me hope lately: we have a program called the Courageous Conversations About Race, which we do with the Syracuse City School District, with the teachers, the administrators. And we thought we were going to get a lot of resistance from people for that program. You know, the majority of the teachers, the statistic I heard is that 98% of the teaching and administrative staffs in our schools are white, while upwards of 80 to 89% of the kids in any one school are kids of color. In some schools, it's even higher than that. So when you have that kind of dynamic going on, where you are mostly white faculty and staff teaching mostly kids of color, and we bring our privilege, we bring our unawareness, we bring our stereotypes to that job situation, we thought we were going to run into huge resistance on the part of people as we entered into the Courageous Conversations About Race, and just the opposite has been the case. The staff has been completely willing to enter into the conversation, to do self-examination, to look at their own histories and how those have affected them. They've been completely willing to look at the kids that they're teaching, embrace them, redevelop relationships with kids, hold kids to high expectations in this very positive way, not in a you will do what everybody does, but what is your potential? What can we make happen for you? It's been extremely hopeful for me to see the kids and to see the adults take on this program. The other thing are the exchange programs that we do between the city and suburban kids. You know, you would think there are lots of stereotypes that kids hold in direction of each other. And the program breaks down those stereotypes and builds relationships where once there was just a misunderstanding. And I'm very hopeful about that program as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Beth.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.